You're watching EVH and Gear TV, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones. And official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, it is the weekend. Happy Friday to you all. Welcome to EVH and Gear TV. We are live. It's going to be our final episode, final broadcast of 2018. I can't believe that, but we've brought back a familiar face, guitarist Jeff Schroeder from the Smashing Pumpkins. Jeff, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Nice to have you back. And
good to be back.
For those that don't know, sometimes some of my viewers watch some of the different shows I run. Some of them watch all of them. Some watch certain ones. But I had Jeff here on the show on my other show, the Helix Hour, and that would be back in the midsummer, I think it was, or
it was June, it is June. It was June because we were in LA doing our kind of last final rehearsals before we moved to Phoenix to do like the final production rehearsals for the tour. Yeah,
that was great.
It was June.
Cool.
Yeah, so good. About 6 months.
It's good to have you back, and it's I just always unanswered questions, which is always nice. I like to have so many questions prepared for my guests that if we don't get through them, we can always take a rain date and reschedule and do some more as well too, or a return visit. So it's nice to have you back. So how was your Christmas? Did you do anything much for Christmas, or just kind of relax a little bit?
Christmas was good. My family is out in LA, and I ended up because we finished the tour in LA, so actually stayed there for about 10 days after the tour and kind of did my Christmas early, and then I came back here. So on actually Christmas Day, I went and hung out at my guitar teacher's house.
Okay.
Because he has a 5-year-old son, and it was cool. It was actually awesome. So we just had breakfast, opened some presents, and then actually played guitar for about 2 hours. He ran me through the ringer of playing some jazz tunes. So it was fun.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that too. I've had a few guitar players on the show where, they're very accomplished musicians, but yet they take lessons and instruction. And I think that's very humbling and very, very cool. And I think you might have alluded to this. I forget a little bit about what you started to tell me on the Helix Hour, but it was mainly the jazz stuff that you're trying to learn, or?
Yeah. We do with my teacher. It's just straight up. Yeah, we don't do any rock stuff. I mean, he's actually a great rock player too, and he went to MI in the early '90s, and he's only a year older than me. So and he's a Van Halen nut as well, actually, because he went to MI in the early '90s, and so Paul Gilbert was still around, doing seminars and stuff. So I think he even took like a lesson with him, but he got to study with all the guys, like Joe DiOrio was still there, Scott Henderson, it was still in the heyday of the kind of that first wave. So he gets the rock thing too, but we play, but for the lessons and stuff, we just play actually jazz tunes, standards and stuff.
Are you enjoying it?
It kind of, it's so different. And for a while, it really, it seemed like it's just like almost playing like a different instrument, because it's the mentality. But now it's finally starting to where that way of thinking about the guitar and the neck and notes and note choices and voice leading and all that stuff is now it's starting to creep into just my playing in general. Because, with rock, you tend to, the songs in the key of E minor, and you just every lick in that key up and down the fretboard. But this, you can't really do that. You're having to modulate all the time, and so now it, that way of thinking, of kind of thinking more chord to chord, and kind of bringing the most out of what is actually building the harmony of the song. That's starting to creep into even my rock playing now too. Finally, I think.
That's cool.
At least I hope so. But dude, let me tell you, it's hard. It is like, I was very naive. I thought that, hey, I can play guitar okay. I've been playing for a while, and I thought take a couple lessons, learn a couple licks. I'd sound like like Frank and Bali or something. But little did I know, it's a completely different beast, and it's a lot of work, and it really different than rock is also too is rock, you usually most of the time you're playing, you get the drummer just back there like keeping it together, where jazz, time is more important, but no one's necessarily playing the strong beats all the time. So you are personally responsible for keeping time.
Gotcha.
So that's a whole other thing. But so once you start getting that together, that makes your rock playing even way better. And that's, someone like Van Halen, his time was so good. And I think because he grew up with hearing that type of rhythm, maybe his dad playing in the house, I think
Big
he
band.
kind of had that very intuitive sense of having like that, that kind of swing in his head.
Mm-hmm.
So even when he played, it really came through his playing. So yeah, so but the stuff that we work on is just, we're learning standards and trying to play chord tones and stuff.
This might sound silly, but so yourself being like a rock player your whole life, I want to try to attribute this to learning a new language. So you're a rock guy and a lead player a lot of the time. And so it maybe think of it like learning the French language. You speak English, native English, and you want to learn French. Well, you watch a few movies, you think I can probably pick up that accent or that language. It's not too hard. And you study it, you realize how hard it is, but maybe learning a whole new style completely different to what you're used to is almost like picking up another language.
No, it is actually a very good analogy. It really is. And in fact, when they talk about jazz, they really talk about you learn jazz language.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're learning like Charlie Parker tunes and Charlie Parker songs, you're breaking apart like, oh, what did he do over that chord? And you're learning bits of, so even if it's say like a 2B eighth note phrase, that's actually like syntax, that's language.
Mm-hmm.
And so you learn how to incorporate that, like, okay, I can play it over those notes, those intervals, work over a dominant chord, but now can I change the intervals and use that same structure and play it over a minor chord or a minor two chord? And so you start learning that and try to incorporate that language into your playing. So they really do. So it really is like learning a different language, and it's a tough one.
We can all benefit from a bigger vocabulary too. I mean, we look at some of these guitar heroes that are out there. Yeah. I think I read actually in one of your bios that Ace Frehley was an influence of yours, and we're going to talk in depth about some of your influences later on. But someone like Ace Frehley has a limited vocabulary as far as chops, but he's a guitar hero. But I think all of us as musicians out there can really expand we can always benefit from expanding our vocabularies, whether it's the language of speaking or on the instrument.
Well, and then, but that's, and some people need a lot of words to say what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And some people can say things very simply, but the thing with Ace Frehley, which I think is ultimately no matter what style you play, whether it's rock or jazz or blues or funk or whatever, and what Ace has is he has a unique voice.
He does.
And that's really the most important thing.
Yep.
You hear 3 notes, his vibrato, it's no doubt who it is, and that's to really understand that as a musician has taken me a long time to go like, what is that? How does that, that mentality,
yes,
like influence even how you practice, how you play, how you pick the guitar, how you strum, to get that type of everything that you do to try and kind of at least bring some type of your own personality, your own personal voice into your playing. That's really the, to me, that's really what differentiates like really good guitar players
mm-hmm.
and people that are the greats, the ones that we're talking about.
Oh, exactly.
They usually have that other thing.
That's right. There's so many guitar players now these days. I'm starting to gravitate down to a smaller kind of pool of guitar players, and I'm starting to enjoy guitar players that don't shred. One of my friends on Facebook today, Bill Lanero, was just talking about this. He's talking about watching all these guitar players out there that can just shred like crazy, but it's sometimes the notes that you choose not to play could be some of the sweetest notes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, negative space, right?
Yeah.
That's really what defines space. Yeah, for sure.
And there's some guitar players out there. I put Ace Frehley in this list. Trust me, I love Kiss. Kiss was my first favorite band. And Ace Frehley will always be my guitar hero, even before Eddie. No disrespect, Eddie, but just larger than life. But I could talk about Kiss on here all the time, but I'll mention a couple other guitar players. One just off the top of my head I think is absolutely amazing. That isn't a shred demon, but he has his voice, is Tom Morello. I love his playing. I love what he uses, even like using like Allen wrenches on his strings. He knows how to use his voice. He's
just, again, he's someone who from the first album, just created his own world, his own universe that he plays in. And that's why, 20, 30 years later, we're still talking about him, because
That's right.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a great example of that. Like he's, and if you really think about it too, as a player, to be able to kind of make certain things, certain motifs or certain sounds or some like that are identified with you, like, his stuff that he does with the whammy pedal, like the kind of stuff he does with the toggle switch that kind of mimics, like the record scratching and all that kind of stuff. I mean, those are things that are attributed to him, so to be a player that has actually contributed to the lexicon of guitar vocabulary is huge. I mean, that's I'll do, all the respect in the world to someone like that.
It's amazing. We're blessed to have talent like that, and because a lot of people measure talent by the number of notes, like as we just talked about a moment ago, and choosing the right ones and having that voice from the onset, like we talked about Tom. I mean, some of these people enter the scene and they have their voice. I don't want to go as far as saying Jimi Hendrix, because Jimi Hendrix is a dual level. He had the voice and was a shredder per se. You know what I mean? Like he was a guitar hero.
For his era, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing stuff that no one else was. Like people were like, "Holy smokes!"
Had the voice and had kind of technique beyond measure.
Look, I mean, he had it all, like the style, look, the playing, the tone, the everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's jump over and say hi to a bunch of people over in the chat. We're going to come back, and since we're talking about Christmas, you showed me something that Santa brought for you, and we'll have a look at that in a second as well, too. We've got a bunch of people here tonight, full house of people. We got Gary Holt here, Daryl Qualls, JJ's House of Jams. Adam EVH is here, and let me see.
Adam.
Actually, not that Adam, but another Adam. But that Adam is here too. He's here as well too.
That's right. That's FU Tone Adam.
That's right. Vincent's here. Brad Miller, Nocturnal Butterfly, my better half, running the chat beautifully as always. Paulie D is here. Seo Sugiyama checking in from Japan. Hello in advance, Jeff and friends. Nice to have you tuning in from Japan.
Yeah. I know Sayo. She's a good supporter of the band and
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Adam AVH, I mentioned. Blackie DH is here. Let me see here. Scroll down a little bit more. There is our FU Tone friend. He says, hey now, Adam's here. We'll be talking some Futone tonight.
Adam is the reason I know that is how I found out about this show, is I saw that he was on it. Whatever. He's probably one of your early guests.
Right. Yeah. We're probably talking some Futone or talking some maybe when the miniature guitars come out or something of that nature.
Yeah. Adam is a great person in the community. He's really brought me together with so many other players, and I mean, he's really one of those people that kind of behind the scenes that actually kind of keeps this community together. He's a great guy.
We go back to 2000, and I've had a great friendship ever since. It's just absolutely amazing. It's so funny. He endorsed my band way back, like in 2000, and I had super stupid long hair back then. And then I think we didn't talk for a couple of years, whatever, and then talked to, about 3 or 4 years later after that. And then he's like, you're that same guy with the long hair? Because I think I'd cut my hair. And he didn't even remember, right? And there's still the same photo of me on his website with this crazy ass long hair. It was so funny. But he's been great. He's helped out so many of our viewers here on the show. We exchange, clients back and forth all the time, and I send people his way, he sends people my way, and stuff like that. It's awesome. I really enjoy the relationship and friendship and business relationship we have too.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, at the end of the day, it's about friendship and community, but in addition to that, I mean, he's just like a source of, like, once you start going down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to make a guitar really sound good.
Yep.
Like, so you get like the good piece of wood, good neck. Then it's like, what's that elusive 10%? You know what I mean? Of like, how do you get that other thing? And then you start reading about people like Eddie Van Halen and all the stuff, all the little mods he was doing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's only people like Adam who have really put in the, not even 10, probably like 30,000 hours of researching this stuff and testing materials to find out like, hey, this is, if you're, if you're looking to go down that rabbit hole, you need to have a guide because you can make a lot of wrong turns.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so once I was introduced to him, he kind of cleared up a lot of stuff for me. He's my tone guru.
He is. And you know what I love seeing? I love seeing comments on social media because people that don't know about a product, they're like, and we're all guilty of this. If we're afraid of something, the first thing is we want to do is shy away from it, or sometimes even go to the extreme reaction of attacking it. We don't know anything about it. Like I was that way before I got into computers. I hated computers, so I was like, ooh, shy away from computers, right? And then now it's my livelihood. But with Futone, I'll see some people comment sometimes, oh, you're talking snake oil. It doesn't do anything. And then what I love to see is I watch the people who like, okay, well, let me just try it. And then they try it, and then they almost don't have any words. You just have to watch their face the first time they do a video on YouTube or something after putting in, like, say, a brass block or something. That's testimonial right there. Just that smile and grin.
No, that stuff is the real deal. That's getting into that. I mean, if you don't have a good guitar and a good, you don't have, that's not going to take a bad guitar and make it sound good. But if you got a really good guitar and it's like I said, you're there, but you're not quite over the finish line. And that's the hardest part to get, it's like you need to have someone who, who can be a finisher. And so to me, that's what that stuff is. But right. Now, he's branching off. I haven't had a chance to try him, but he's branching off into like doing pickups and stuff as well now. And so
the pickups are great.
I bet I'm sure. Yeah. Have you tried them?
I've got a set in an SG over here, Junior's SG, and they sound phenomenal. Because as you know me, I'm a high output pickup guy. I like the high output.
Yeah. Me
they
too.
Sound
for
phenomenal.
Live, for pumpkins. Yeah.
Yeah, you should try a set.
Yeah, I have to hit him up about that.
Yeah.
Because because on this tour I went back. I think we talked a little bit about it, but I went back for my in the bridge position on those prototype guitars I was playing. I started using I just went back to Duncan JBs because I just wanted something that had that sound from that era. You know what I mean? That would be that I know, because there's just so much stuff out there. You can get lost in like pickup and that. And I'm like, well, I know on those records that I really like, that pickup
was there.
Yeah. And so let me just start there.
I can't tell you how many Kramers I had back in the day, Strikers and Focus and all those guitars. It was always the pickup you put in those guitars, Duncan JBs.
Yeah, well, there wasn't, back in the day, there really wasn't that many options. I remember going, when I had a humbucker, some type of super strat guitar with the reverse headstock and stuff too. And I remember going to the music store, and I think he was the Custom or the JB.
Yep.
Right? That was the Duncan Custom or the JB.
And then you start going to the music stores. Now we got a Duncan Custom. We got a JB. It's like, oh my God, I got 3 pickups and then 4 pickups. And now we got catalogs. Remember the days you'd flip open a catalog? You're like, what do I just want a pickup that growls and, gives me some sustain.
Yeah.
And people ask you, I'm sure you get this asked all the time. Fans will ask you, how do I get your tone? How do I get this sound? It's like, you know what? It's right here in the hands to start with, but I think this pickup would maybe suit you from what you're describing, and you just try it and see if you like it. If not, there's other ones to choose from.
Yeah, it's funny because people really do, they'd ask all the time, like in the pumpkins, like, oh, what are the pedals? What type of fuzz pedals are you guys using live? And, live, we don't really use live. It's all pretty much, it's like amp distortion. Maybe like an overdrive into it, but like, but a lot of it is just the way that the riffs are constructed. Yep. And even if they're simple to play, they're hard to make it sound right. And that really is a big part of tone. Has nothing to do with the amp or the pedals. Probably one of the biggest EQ things that you can do is the pick, like what pick you use.
Sure.
That makes a massive difference, because it's all about how you strike the angle, you strike the string, the thickness of the pick. That's like really your first EQ pedal is the pick.
Very well said. Yeah.
And that, that's a big part of it. So
I agree with that 100%. Say hi to a couple more people here, and we'll jump back and have a look at this Christmas gifts. I'm Sucking Wind. He's a guitar player. He's here on the channel saying hi. Let me see here. So let's go down a little bit more here. Solo's Revenge is here as well too. Black DH, I think I mentioned that. Let's see if there's any questions here. I don't see anything at the moment yet. Gary Davlin is here as well too. Good evening. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit more. Sinner is here. Metal Stage is here. Hey, I think I recognize this name. Is this? He likes to hang out with you, and I think he likes to say that he's your tech sometimes. Fopster Amplification. It's nice to see you, Drew. Drew from Fopster Amplification is here. Says hello, my friends. Nice to have it. You two guys were so great to us. I have to say, awesome. Thank you so much for the hospitality both of you gave us.
No, Drew's a special human being. I mean, one of the best experiences I've ever had with working with someone, and I told him from the very first conversation I had with him he was recommended to me. And so we talked on the phone, and I said, I really view this job as we're a team. I mean, I'm up on say I got to play the tunes, but I need you to be, your set of ears are just as important as mine. So if you hear things and, you know what I mean? And then once you figure, if there's things that that, hey, we could do this better or whatever, like I need you to be that person. And he was, it was great, Yeah,
I was very impressed. I mean, first of all, the fact he wears a suit to a rock show, you know what I mean?
I know, right?
That's pretty cool. That says a lot.
Yeah. No, yeah. But gosh, talk about someone he can, because a lot of times you get guys who can work, they can tune a guitar and plug in your stuff, but Drew can build you an amp, build pedals, and so
I like the way he would tell me in the short conversation I had with him, and he was on the show as well too. But even at the gig there, we're talking, every artist he's worked with, he could go from all tube amps and real deal pedals and the old way we used to do it. A lot of artists still do it. And then he goes to working with you. We got things with like Helix and all kinds of switching systems and things like that. And then the next artist, you got this. You never know what you're getting into. And I think he's going to probably kill me for not remembering, but I think that was his first experience with Helix when he met you. Was that correct?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So he had to learn that.
And he had used with the other bands like the Deftones and stuff. He was quite familiar with the Axe effects.
Yep.
So. I think so. He, in theory, he understood like what it was going to be, and so it's just a matter of learning kind of the architecture of the software, and and like I said, his work ethic is in line with my own, and so I really appreciate it because he would take a Helix into his hotel room, and at night learn how to program it.
That's crazy.
So we could both come in and do it. So really, I think more than some guitar players, I'm very I learn how to use this stuff myself as well, and because I sit at home and I make presets and programs and stuff, so I know how to use it. But really, for this, him and we did everything together.
That's great. Yeah,
I could text him and be like, hey, Billie called and wants to do. We're going to add this song to the set. So at sound check, can you make me a preset with, these effects, this chain, and I'd show up to sound check, he'd have it there, and it would be like, 85, 90% exactly what I wanted. Just a matter of once you hear the band playing and you fine tuning, mix levels and tones and stuff. But that's invaluable because it's. You saw how our show. It's so big. You don't have hours and hours to sit there, and you got to get it done quick. And you got to get it done quick and get it done right.
I got to say too, I made a note to talk about the show, and it's later on in the program. But since you brought it up, I'd never seen a Pumpkin show in my life before, and I was never. I don't want to say I wasn't a fan of the Pumpkins, but me, I'm obsessed with Van Halen. I like Joe Satriani. I like these, and I only listen to a few styles of music, sadly, which is a bad thing for me. I'm starting to listen to a lot more now. But seeing the show, people to go see that show, even if they're a closet Smashing Pumpkins fan or not even considering a fan, maybe they're going to go with their friend that's a fan, they instantly become fans after that show. I have never seen visuals. I've never heard guitar sound so good. And that's one of the questions I was going to talk to you about too, was how do you play in a 3-guitar player band? Because Billie's playing a lot of guitar, phenomenal player himself. And how do you play in the band and not step on each other's toes? It is a big sound, big production. I was just so blown away. It was an amazing show.
Well, you really have to be an adult about it,
right?
You know what I mean, and check your ego out the door and really think about what's going to make the band sound the best. You know, so I think there are situations where all of us would want to play more, but you have to think about what it sounds like out there. But I think everybody, I think the cool thing about it is all three of us, James included, we all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And so that's what makes it actually great, is because, if there's a situation where they just know like Jeff's going to shine the most or James is going to shine doing that, then, everybody's really, we want to see each other take those moments and do it, so it really wasn't as hard as you would think it was going to be. I mean, we just sat, I think before the tour started, Billie and I sat down having lunch one day and just kind of went through the set, kind of mapped it out, like, okay, like, you'll do this, James will do this, I'll do this. And then, then once when you went to rehearsal, we kind of figured it out. But then, so that was like kind of level one of doing it, just figuring out what part you're going to play. Then level two would be, what's the tones? And then once you're in level two, there's many levels of level two, because it's like, well, Billie's playing his Reverend, which has this sound, so my guitar sound needs to, be this, and James is playing a Les Paul, which has like that low mid thing, what I mean? So,
a lot of orchestration there.
Yeah, you have to really think about how it all fits together. And so we would, change guitars and, thinking about what type of pickups are in that guitar, what type of frequencies is that pickup going to accentuate, so when together it gets bigger. Because if people are fighting the same frequencies, when you all hit the on button, it could actually get smaller.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
not what you want. You want it to get bigger. So yeah, we worked really hard on that. And then, obviously another thing is our sound man, Kevin Lemoyne. I mean, amazing. I mean, he's, I heard from so many people I respect, like yourself and Adam and other, where they're like, I've never heard guitar sound so good live,
Yeah.
So, and, we made a lot of smart decisions, and, like, I think maybe it was like the second or third day of rehearsal, we were all on in-ears, but we had the amps in the room, but then we decided to, move the amps off stage and put them in ISO cabs. So each amp is completely isolated. So you can imagine for our front of house mixer, the only sound coming off the stage is the drums.
Yeah.
So he's really like mixing in a studio for him. So I think that's a big part of it too.
A couple times during the show in London, I think it was London or Toronto, we saw you, London. And we went back to the soundboard a couple different times, and that's the best spot in the place. It just dead center, and it was just like rich stereo, full guitars. I could hear each one of you, the sub just kicking you in the gut. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. Junior's just screaming his head off. I'm looking at him, and he's like, we're both like 12-year-olds.
What's amazing too is he did all analog console.
Okay.
He didn't use a digital console. So I think that's another element to to having it sound pleasing to the ear of no digital conversion. So I think that's probably has a lot to do with it as well.
Good to know.
Especially when let's just be honest. I mean, when you're listening to loud guitars that long, that kind of the way that an analog signal is going to kind of round off some of those frequencies is what you're going to want. When you're playing. We were playing in a little over 3 hours. So.
That was a long show.
Yeah.
People that bought tickets for that really got their money's worth.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that was amazing. Sure. And I remember saying this to you, and I felt so. I've never done this in my life. I had to leave second last song because we had a fairly long drive.
Yeah.
And it was a long day for us. And Junior's like, usually it's Junior saying, "Dad, can we get going home?" And I'm the old man, and I was going to be falling asleep, so I was like, "We have to go." And I killed myself basically having to leave, but I had to do it. But when you guys broke out and did Stairway to Heaven, and the lead, it's just absolutely amazing. Like that, I talked on Facebook for probably a week after that, and people are like, you don't do Stairway to Heaven, don't cover that. I was like, well, trust me, And some people were judging some of the videos they saw online, and someone shooting a video with a cell phone doesn't do it justice. You got to go see you guys live. And that's amazing, man. You ripped that solo.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was it was funny when that was on the set list. I thought like, okay, are we going to do some like weird deconstructed version of it? And then Bill was like, no, I think we should pretty much do it true to form. And I mean, obviously people are entitled to their opinion, and I get it. Cause my initial reaction would be like, what like, you want to do this song? But I have to say, like, it was kind of midpoint in the set. It's a long set, and it was a highlight every single night. And so, hey, I don't know, I'm not going to try and figure it out other than we played it every night, and it went over extremely well every night because it was just kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
It was an emotional song for the sole fact that, number one, it shouldn't work the way it did. It's a mojo song, so it shouldn't have worked the way it did. Number two, you guys were sonically killing it. And then there was just like, you're kind of blown away that you're doing it. And then sometimes you're feeling it. It's like, it almost brings a tear to the eye, which that is really moving, not that it's a sad song necessarily, or maybe it is. But the fact how the emotion that was brought through that song. So yeah, definitely. And you guys got a tour coming up. We'll talk about it in a little bit here too, starting in next.
Yeah, but not to get too intellectual about it too. But if you kind of watch the visuals, and the story that was being told was really about a story about the band, the story about Billie as a child, and having this dream of wanting to start a band, and then starting the band. And so that song kind of epitomizes the childhood fantasy of like, if you could be in an arena playing Stairway to Heaven, that's like, is kind of rock and roll fantasy as it gets.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the sort of the playfulness of it too, that we were trying to, like I said, but that's all esoteric stuff.
Well, it was a success, whatever it was.
At the end of the day, it works as a good rock song.
I think so.
People just like, yeah. So then that's all that matters.
That's right. Don't question what works. Here's two questions over in the chat from Blackie DH. He asked, and this is a good one because this was something we're going to talk about today anyways. He's asking, what guitars and amps are you using on the tour? So he kind of go maybe a breakdown of some of the guitars and amps and things.
Yeah. Well, let me see. The guitars are, I play 95% Yamaha, and which is, I think a lot of people are not familiar with a lot of Yamaha's newer guitars. So, a few years ago they came out with the Revstar line, which is kind of a 24 3/4 scale style guitar. That's somewhat harkens back to their SGs that were made in the 70s and 80s. But kind of a slightly different body style. All different types of pickup configurations, but the ones I use are mostly humbucker, 2 humbuckers. And so I use those, but the guitar I used for the most was a kind of a prototype guitar that they're coming out with. Hopefully, maybe next year, or might even be the year after that. But they were kind enough to be like, hey, we have this new guitar design. Would you mind? And we made you a few of these, taking them out on the road and
kind of road test.
Yeah, see if they hold up. And so it was great. So they built me 4 of them totally to my specs. So they were kind of, those are probably, I think, the 25.5-inch scale guitars with the ones that I played the most had the 2-point tremolo system, locking tuners, and humbucker in the bridge, and a single coil in the neck, but I use like a Duncan hot rails or a DiMarzio kind of single coil stack pickup. And man, they sounded phenomenal. Ash body, alder bodies, the typical super Strat type of guitar. Alder bodies, 2 with maple necks, or all had maple necks, 2 with maple fretboards, and 2 with Powell Ferro fretboards, stainless steel frets, which those are great too. I first guitar I ever had with stainless steel frets was my EVH Wolfgang, and they're addicting.
Yeah, they are.
even though Drew, and he can maybe, if he's still watching, but he probably fell asleep, but uh, he said that, and I never really know, because I never really noticed this because I'm not the one changing the strings. And he said that actually strings die much quicker with stainless steel frets. I don't know if you've had that experience as well, but
Well, I'm using the NYXLs from D'Addario, so they tend to last a little longer than a normal string, anyways. But I do agree with that because it's almost like, well, such a hard metal, right? It's abusing those strings, and the more you abuse those strings, those frets are fighting back, and I could see that for sure.
yeah, but they feel so good. Like they're so smooth,
They
right?
are.
Like it's nice. You know what I mean? It's really nice. Yeah.
For sure.
So, and then amps on this tour, I went back to using. I have um, the old Randall RM modular series
Mm-hmm.
preamps and the power amps that went with it. But they've both been modded by Anthony at Salvation Mods in the Czech Republic. And so all the preamp modules that I use were custom built by him. Or there were modded ones, that Randall ones, but pretty radically different from anything that they made. I mean, he kind of used their guts and then um, does his thing. And so the 4 preamps that I used were kind of 2 Voxy for cleans and then 2 Marshall based ones for distortion. One called the Mashall, and then the Randy Rhodes style one for like my high gain. And then all the effects, switching, channel switching, MIDI commands, everything was done with Helix, the rack version. And I used the Helix floor controller, and yeah, still use a regular wah. I just like plugging in. So I use the Joe Bonamassa Dunlop, which
Nice.
is still I think it's one of the best sounding wahs ever made. I mean, it's great. And I use a JHS buffer on the board as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a nice rig rundown for sure. And I'll let I was at Blackie that was asking. If you look at the video on the channel here as well, Blackie, we did a bit of a rig rundown with Jeff in London, and he'll go through everything you just mentioned there as well too. And there's some close-ups, and you and Drew were both taking us through it, so it's a really in-depth look right on the stage and everything. So that's pretty cool. Look for that video on the channel. Gary Holt has a question for you. This is kind of a cool question. Gary Holt is a close personal friend, and he works closely with Gary Kramer from Gary Kramer of Kramer, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he says, does he play a Kramer? And you and I have shared some fun stories off the air about Kramer. Now, I don't know if you have any right now. I know you were searching for one, but I'm sure you had some as a kid growing up. And what were your thoughts on, and maybe you have some Kramers. Now tell us about that.
No, I don't have any, and I've never owned one. I've never owned one.
Okay.
But I recently, as we were talking about, I was trying to get one because you have the vintage series, right? And I wanted a white one of the
Yes.
vintage, but I haven't been able to get one that I could try. Because I've found a few online, but I kind of don't. Yeah, at this point, I try not to buy stuff online that I can't try.
Oh, I know. It's smart.
Because I've just gotten guitars that I wasn't happy with, and then you know what I mean. But I do pine for a white Kramer Pacer because as we were talking about, I'm a big Joe Satriani fan, and so that was kind of one of his main guitar on the first Not of This Earth and Surfing with the Alien before he actually started playing Ibanez. So yeah, definitely a fan of that sound and would love to have. So I'll find one eventually.
Yep.
I will find one. One will come into my world, and yeah, I think ideally I probably would like a vintage one, meaning an 80s one, but I don't know. I mean, you said the new ones are really great. They might actually, you know what I mean? So if I find the reissue of the vintage series reissues out there, I'll probably pick it up.
Well, the cool thing is, not to let the cat out of the bag, and I'm not really going to spoil anything yet because I don't even know the full details, but there's a whole bunch of new Kramers coming at NAMM. A whole bunch. So,
okay, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna be something to wait and see.
I'll be there, so
you are gonna go.
Yeah. I'll be there. So
good. I'm very happy to hear that because that's a question I was going to ask you as well too. So there's something I don't have to ask you. I'll text you when we're there. I've got your cell, so I'll text you and let you know when we're there. We'll try to hook up and, go catch a couple exhibits together. Are you going to be doing any playing or anything at any appearances?
I think I might be doing a signing at Ernie Ball.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Going back I'm talking to them about, and maybe doing something with Helix, but that hasn't been okay. So they probably put me to work.
Good.
Which I'm happy to do.
Oh, for sure. Because sometimes it's a little bit better than walking that floor, because you realize at the end of the day you've walked 25 miles. Yeah,
I'm gonna go for sure on Thursday and Friday. I'll probably skip out by the weekend. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
But I definitely want to go on end, because there actually is a lot of stuff I just want to see and check out.
As a fan of gear.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and then obviously the new Kramers being one of them. That's pretty exciting. I love the Pacers though. That's my.
There you go. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. So I'll text you for sure. We arrive on Wednesday and we're there through the weekend. We may be extending our visit as well too. But a couple of people are talking over in the chat. They want to see some Yamahas. Do you have any of your Yamahas handy? And if you do or you don't, show us first. Okay, before you do that,
give me a second.
Do that and show us your Christmas gift too. All right, guys, so he'll be right back. I'll go continue through the chat here for a quick second as well, too. Rick Hefner's here. Hey, guys, nice to meet you. David Morgan. I know I'm probably getting some webcam buffering here, and I apologize on that on my end. Okay, he's back. Which I'll pull over.
Yeah, this is...
oh, yeah, I remember that baby.
Well, this is actually a newer one. They sent me this, but it is similar to one I had out there. And this is the RSP20 CR, which is the made in Japan.
Okay.
Like, this is kind of like the flagship top of the line version. And it's got, usually I sometimes I will switch out the pickups, not because these pickups aren't good, but just because for what I do, I want something with a little more juice.
Right.
And these are kind of very PAF vintage, very warm. So they do sound great, but not for what I needed to. I needed to be more heavy metal.
Certainly. It's a beautiful guitar.
And the one I use on tour, I have those Joe Naylor makes the Railhammer series pickups, which have like kind of the rails here and then the pole on the side. And man, they sound great, because he's got great ears, and he his own personal style of music that he plays is he plays a lot of detuned heavy stuff.
Okay.
So they deal really well with low frequencies, but they're clear and punchy without being. So they kind of give you that clarity of an active pickup, but without the kind of weirdness that sometimes that active pickup can kind of give you if you're not really used to it. You know what I mean? So, but man, this guitar. So I can't say enough. And I was actually talking to the guys at Yamaha today on the phone, because I'm working on a project with them that I'm going to be doing in the early part of the year. And we were talking about this guitar. The craftsmanship on this thing is amazing. I mean, it is like it's impeccable. It's really good. I mean, I was, when they first started coming out this line, Scott Marceau at Yamaha, he brought a few to Chicago. And so I got to play some of the prototypes, and, from where those prototypes have gone to now, when this gets, because, now they've been making them for a few years, it takes a few years to really dial it in.
Yeah. Iron all the kinks out.
And this one, I pulled it out of the case. I was like, wow. I'm not sending it back. I'm gonna put this one on the road, take this one out on the road too.
Yeah.
So that's great. There's this one, and I got another one right here too.
Right on.
Which is this is the 720B, because it has a Bigsby on it. And I'm not usually a huge fan of Bigsbys, but on this guitar, like this particular, I had it actually as Drew's guitar. He had one of these, and so the blue one that I was playing on the tour was his,
right?
And because he was like, "Why don't you just check it out?" Because I was usually like, "I don't want a Bigsby, I want a Floyd." I don't deal with this, But on this guitar, and so it sounds really great. So this one is great too. And this one has been, I put in Lawler Imperials in this, and it's a great sounding guitar. I mean, it plays great, sounds great.
I love the
So
inlays on the neck too.
yeah, it's classic. You
It
know, I
is.
mean, it's and it's yeah, and they have like this kind of matte finish, and so it really like,
You
I
don't have to
mean,
polish it near as much.
no, you don't, and it looks more worn out
It does.
than without looking relict.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? Yeah, it has like a little bit of like a Warren Jean kind of feel,
Yeah,
but without looking like without all the artificial scratches and stuff. It's cool.
I agree with you on that.
No, the guitars have really grown on me over the years. You
Yeah.
know, they're and like I said, the quality keeps on improving. You know, I think they're dialing it in more and more.
They are for sure. I'm going to
Yeah.
do something here. Don't be alarmed for a second. I'm going to shut off my webcam to you, so you won't see me. You're still going to hear me. I'm getting some reports that my webcam is lagging. You're fine for everybody, but what they're seeing from me is a little bit slow. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm still here, so I'm not gone. So while you can, I think the audience can still see me. Yeah, we're good. Grab that Christmas gift that you got and let's have a
Oh
look at
yeah,
that one.
yeah. I got a Christmas gift to myself. I
There you go.
was, and I really don't really not worthy of owning this guitar, but as of what they so I always wanted one, and kind of at the end of the tour, um, ended up talking to some of the guys over at Fender, and they gave me a deal I couldn't refuse. And so I got a Yngwie Malmsteen Fender Stratocaster, and
Stellar.
man, what a cool guitar. I always just wanted to see what it was like to be behind the wheel of a car like this, and
I love it.
it's definitely the scalloping takes a little bit of getting used to, but man, the guitar sounds great. And one of the things I'm most really impressed by are these Duncan YJM pickups.
Hmm.
They sound phenomenal, like because they're totally hum canceling, so they're dead quiet. And they do have a stratty sound, but it's big still too. It really has the best of both worlds. Like, it doesn't sound like a humbucker, but it's bigger than a regular Strat pickup, and
Sure.
they're quiet. I mean, because I've tried some stacked single coils in the past, and I
Hmm.
hated them,
Yep.
and so I was really skeptical. But a friend of mine was like, "No, those pickups are great," and I have to say, they're phenomenal.
Well,
Um,
it's funny that you mentioned about the scalloping too, because the only guitar I've ever owned in my life that had scallop frets was the Gem, Gem 77 flower pattern one, and
oh yeah,
but it
yeah,
only
yeah,
had it
yeah.
at the top frets, top 3 frets or whatever it was, top 4 frets, I don't know. But
Before, yeah.
I've heard a lot
That's
of
that's
guys.
that's another dream guitar too, to be honest.
I had one of those, and you know what? I could look in music stores. I see them sometimes. I had one from the original era as soon as they were released, and I bought it from a guitar shop in Windsor, Ontario. And I mean, it took everything in my power, and I probably traded everything I owned to get this guitar. And this guitar store didn't climate control their store
Oh
in Canada. So yeah, so imagine winters in Canada, and they have the heat on during the day, and they go home at night. They keep the temperature warm enough just so it doesn't freeze the pipes. And then next morning they come in and they crank the heat again. So this guitar was going through, all these guitars are going through extreme rigor of weather. And so I bought this guitar, and they gave me a pretty good deal on it. I'm wondering why, too good of a deal. And about a week after owning it, you could almost take a guitar pick and put it between the neck and the fingerboard. It was separating that much. And so I traded it off, and I thought, but I wish I could have still got it, maybe taken it to a good luthier and had him, him or her repair it and, restore it. But long story short, I've heard so many people say that once they've tried scallop, like they wondered how they played their entire life without it.
I could see that. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And definitely, it's as a fan, I'm a big fan of Richie Blackmore as
Yeah.
well, and Uli John Roth, and they have all used scallop fretboards as well. It definitely has a thing. You know what I mean? So even if you're not playing, I mean, I don't think it makes a difference in the sound of when you're. It probably does, but I'm not. Who am I to say?
Right.
But about the sound when you're playing fast. But it's where it's really apparent is when you're actually playing slow and bendy and melodic lines. It's like you can really, the vibrato and stuff that you can get, and the articulation of the note is really, really different, and it's cool. So I'm slowly working on it. It's like I'm easing myself into it. Like have other things to practice. So I don't want to, it's like one of those things, like you just, at first you kind of just want to just dive in completely.
I'm sure you're not going to be doing too many of your jazz chords on that one though.
No. Well, that's the thing is playing chords, you have to really work on your touch because
go sharp, flat.
yeah, you can't press hard. But you have to press hard enough to get articulation. So intonation is something you got to work on. And I had it because I had it set up. I took it to my guy here in Chicago, and I had it set up for 10s at E flat.
Yep.
Yngwie uses his custom set, which is like 8s on top with 10s on the bottom.
Okay.
At the E flat, but I was like, I can't put an 8. That's because on my jazz guitars I use 13. So like,
oh boy,
13 to it's just too much. You know what I mean? So 10 is kind of like the lowest I can go, but it's like I can still barely feel them.
Yeah. But, you go to 8s, you're gonna feel like dental floss.
Yeah, it's cool though. I have to say it's a great guitar. So I'm just even if as a fan, I'm just happy to have it.
That's cool. It's a nice guitar.
And you know what else I got along with it? because I had to, because when you go, I mean, like I said, if you're going to go on the trip, right, and it because you do the same thing, you want to get the experience of like what playing that guitar and that rig would sound like, right? So I did also get the
right on. Very
pedal,
cool.
the Yngwie Malmsteen Overdrive, which is basically I did a lot of reading online about this. It's a copy of the DoD thing that he used to use.
Okay.
I think it's voiced slightly different, and I think has a little bit more gain than like the vintage ones, but it's essentially the same. And so you really do. So that guitar, this pedal, and then I use Helix into like just a plexi style head, and
do you run your guitar to the Overdrive, Yngwie Overdrive, and then directly to the input of Helix, or do you put that through a loop in Helix?
So far I haven't put it in a loop just because I just wanted to go straight into this,
gotcha.
And see what it was like, just to see what it was like first. But I know live, I was watching some rig run at him. He uses some type of looping, or pedal switching system as well too. Yeah. I think he uses the Boss one actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. You get this, and then you put because it gets because this if you use his settings, which is everything on 10.
Yep.
There's more. You have to use right after it, I just put in a noise suppressor on Helix, and because there's a guy online who's got a pretty cool YouTube channel where he's kind of an Yngwie fanatic, and so he kind of demonstrates a lot of sounds, and the way Yngwie's amps seem to be set are fairly clean. Okay. I wouldn't say it's like super clean, but it's not high gain distortion at all. Most of the distortion seems to come from
the pedal.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's really funny too. Sometimes people hear me say, when I mentioned a moment ago about putting it in the loop, as soon as I say that, people go, Eric, you don't put a distortion pedal in the loop, or you don't put this in the loop. And some people don't know how Helix works. When I say loop, it's basically, it's in a switching system, and you can put that block. It scares people, right? Because I get people all the time, Eric, where should I put my flanger? Where should I put this? Like in the real world. And the cool thing is with Helix and things like that too, you can put it wherever you want as far as in the back, and you just assign a block where you want that pedal to be, in front of the amp, behind the amp, or wherever.
Yeah, having that type of flexibility and signal routing and, like digital, that would be something that would be hard to go back.
I know, without.
To go like I'm in a fortunate situation to where I have a roadie, a great guitar tech, and I can use tube amps, cabinets, that whole deal, so I could see how, there's a definite great argument to be made, to still using real amps if you can, but for effects, like having the signal routing, like flexibility of digital is pretty amazing. I mean, and the sonic quality is really good.
It is.
It's really good. I mean, I've sometimes I mean, even a bit live, like I don't even use any. I mean, I think I have one or two drive pedals in my pedal drawer,
Mm-hmm.
but I use a lot of stuff in Helix too.
You
You
use
know what
like
I
the
mean?
Minotaur, or what do you use a lot?
And it's, I was using it, but then I towards the last half of the tour, Drew and I started going back to the 80, the TS 808.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It just, I don't know, man. It was more the sound. It just more sounded like I was used to or something like, or
Yeah.
the sound I wanted. Just a little bit gainier, a little bit thicker. I kind of just, yeah. I started gravitating more towards like the old Tube Screamer.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know a trick I learned? This is really, really cool. I never play with fuzz pedals. I think I've had a couple Jimi Hendrix fuzz pedals over the years, but I'm not a fuzz guy. I like either straight up distortion or overdrive. Never been into fuzz, and I could never get good tone out of it. Just it wasn't for me. But Chris Robertson from Blackstone Cherry's been on the show a couple times, and he's a Helix guy, as you know. And his secret that he says, and that's his signature sound is that fuzz, his lead tone, and he plays in the neck position pickup, and he rolls the tone completely off.
Crazy.
And you got to try it. I was so blown away. He says, just try it. I'm like, but I suck as it is, with full on treble. But he goes, try it, neck pickup, tone all the way off. So sometime when you're just jamming around the house with a fuzz, or you're in Helix or whatever, even if it's a real pedal, do that and see what it sounds like on your guitar. You're probably gonna be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, well, I'll try it. No, I'll try anything. And yeah, another cool. I did get a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
That fine people at JHS actually sent me this because as just a gift, because I got some of their people on the guest list of the last Chicago show. They sent me. This is a very cool thing. The color box. Have you seen this?
I have not.
It's basically it's like a Neve channel strip
Okay.
in a pedal. This is cool. So you can use it, like I've tried it, or just plugging like before going into my interface,
Mm-hmm.
running like Helix into this, or you can use this, like you can get kind of real Beatlesy type of overdrive type of sounds.
So kind of a preamp, or
huh?
is it kind of a preamp?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It's
Okay.
like yeah. I mean, you can use it. It's like a mic pre, basically.
Gotcha.
Is what it would be. So it's like a channel of the mixing board.
Okay.
It's literally just a channel of like a Neve mixing board put in a pedal. I think is their concept. So
Gotcha.
It's cool. And if you actually look, that's what it has a picture of that.
Oh, I see it now. There you go.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I see a friend in
And
the.
it has XLR and quarter inch.
Oh,
So
perfect.
you can actually use it as a mic pre if you want for recording, but you can get like that Beatles Revolution type of distort, because that's what they just plug straight into the board to get that sound. And I have to say, just because and Drew Boppy, being the sweet man that he is, he said right before, he said, "I know you're going on EVHGTV tonight, but go outside and check. You should have a package from Amazon just arrived for you."
Oh yeah.
And he sent me this for Christmas.
Oh, you got the EL34 micro stack.
Yeah.
Love
and
it.
You know what? It's awesome. As soon as I ripped it open and I plugged it in, it's super cool.
You know what's cool about that? I don't have that one. I have two of the white. Well, I have a white one, and Junior has a white one, and so Junior's got one upstairs, a fresh battery in it, and he's like, he says to me, he goes, "Dad, can I borrow your micro stack?" And I'm like, "Well, you got one upstairs. Why don't you use yours?" He goes, "Your battery's dying, and it sounds better. My battery's on its last leg, and it's fuzz completely right out because it's it's going to die in a millisecond, right?" So he's out there with a Variax plugged into, not right now, but this is another day. He's got a Variax plugged into that, cranked up, and it's just farting out the sound. And he's just like, it's like totally Kurt Cobain or something out there. I don't know how to describe it, but because it was almost like it was Variacing because it was on this last volt of power.
Amazing. And what's it say? What is it? 1 watt?
Yep.
1 watt is amazing. Yeah, so that was fun. That put a big smile on my face.
That's really cool. They look nice for decoration. I got my camera turned off right now. You can't see them, but the audience can see them. I've got both ours up there as well too. I want to get the EL34 just for decoration as well too.
It's cool. And and then another thing I picked up and I got it for dirt cheap from my local guy, Jeff Benge, here in Chicago, who is like Adam, is one of those guys who just knows everything about guitars and amps and stuff. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. and I don't know if he would approve of this pedal. I think that's why he sold it to me for so cheap. And I've had a few of these, but this is one from like kind of the mid '80s. Just a classic.
Oh, they're
BS
great.
one, which I've gotten into them, and I have like the Keeley modded one, and I have just like a newer one, but being the Satriani nut that I am, again, that's something that I kind of like, okay, I want to explore that space a little bit, and I mean, it's amazing that he used that for so long.
I know. There's two distortion pedals that I've had over the years. I've had probably 2 or 3 versions of one and probably 10 versions of that DS1, but I had multiple copies of the MXR Distortion Plus because, I was trying to discover Randy Rhoads.
Of course.
I was going with that one.
Yeah.
Loved it. And I was running that into a Marshall JCM 900 high gain dual reverb, and it sounded great. And then the DS1s, I've had so many versions of those. But I saw one of my friends here in the chat. I'm really glad he's here tonight. Sean Pierce Johnson. He does a lot of pedal reviews a lot. And he actually knows exactly about that color box. So when you were showing that one a moment ago, he actually loves it. Yeah. And Adam Reaver says he runs the Pod Microbean into the 5150 Micro.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That would sound cool. And I can imagine what it would sound like because I've done something similar. Before I started discovering all the stuff with Line 6, I used to do a lot of stuff, and I still love them with Positive Grid and Bias and Jam. We started with Jam Up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I did a review way back on the channel, and I look back at it now, and it's cringy. It's one of those ones where you almost want to delete, but it's like, hey, it's gotten some views. I mean, I look like I won't even say what I look like, but it's an embarrassing video, but I'm doing a review on the Microstack, right? And I have like an SM57 mic on the cabinet, miking it, and I'm doing it for real. And then I run my iPad using, I think it was Bias Jam Up Pro or one of their newer apps into the front of it. And people are like, that doesn't act, I mean, it didn't sound horrible. It sounded like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, this is like not a bad, like, keep it in the suitcase kind of thing. Because sometimes, usually I take one of those Yamaha on the road. I have one of those Yamaha THR.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Packets. They're great. And, but then again, it's a little it's too big to fit in the suitcase.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So when we're on the bus and stuff, it's fine. I take it in with me. But like flying around, I think I might take this little EVA thing just to have, just because it's still better than playing unplugged. Yep,
it is for sure. You know who the poster boy is for that amplifier? I'm not sure if you've watched any of his videos on YouTube. Cameron Cooper. He's been on the show before. He's a big Eddie Van Halen nut too. And I mean, he can get every tone era of Van Halen out of that amplifier, especially the balance.
How does he do it?
Well, it's the fingers too, right? Yeah, it's the fingers for the most part, but he can really, I think you can probably, maybe the weaker era might be the vintage Van Halen, but he can still do it. But when it comes to the balance and the detuning effects and all that kind of stuff, man, you got to check him out.
Okay, I'll check it out. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. He's a young kid, and it just drives you crazy when you see these young kids that have not only the talent, because there's some out there that can shred, but they don't have the soul, and some have soul and blah, blah, blah. He's got the whole package. He's really, really good. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So I think that's about it for like, new gear that's come into my...
That's cool. No, that's a good collection. And it's so funny. JJ's House of Jams over here. He's a big Helix user. He's been using it for years, and he's like hasn't even used tube amps anymore. And sad thing is with me, the only time I was really enjoying my tube amps when I was doing Helix stuff is I was running it like a wet, dry, wet kind of system. So Helix left and right with power cabs or going directly to my mixer was nice, and then dry 5150 up the center. But now I'm just getting, I don't want to say I'm getting lazy, but I'm liking the tones I'm getting out of the process, out of the modeling. And I pretty much have the stuff back here for decoration now. It's no disrespect to any guitar products, brands or anything like that. It's just, I can turn on a digital product. It's going to be exactly the same every day. The only thing that changes is me, as opposed to, well, the amp's not working right with the room today, or, hypothetical things like that. But I love the modeling world today. And I mean, it's a different, it gives you a different type of relationship. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, when it was all pedals and I started getting almost anxiety because there's just so much stuff out there, and you're like, oh, do I need to get, and then end up with, cases of pedals that I never use, so now at least with something like Helix or HX Effects or HX Stomp and I just actually got an HX Stomp.
They're great.
Oh my gosh, that thing is, wow. talk about amazing, you know.
I know you can't see it, but I've got one here to show the audience right here. I know the audience can't, or you can't see it, but yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. And Adam,
Yeah, and you know they just put the DS1 in, you know, one of the more recent updates, right? They got the DS1 and then the modded one, the Keeley modded DS1 in there, and they sound great.
they do. And Adam Reaver here, our pal, he's now distributing Headrush, which is cool. They're great stuff as well too.
And I see those clips that he posts with Tracy Guns, and it just sounds epic. I'm like, holy smokes, like, you know, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it's reached a point to where you know, people can use these things live, and they sound great, and you don't have to haul the big stuff around anymore.
That's the thing. Cool. There's probably not the budget there anymore for tour support and things like this, like there used to be. You know, show up with a backline. I mean, sure, Yngwie is still doing it, but I mean, Yngwie is not going to be playing, you know, a modeler per se too much for the most part. He still needs those Marshall cabs, whether they're real or fake or whatever. You know,
they gotta be fake. I mean,
I know.
Like, I used to use 2 half stacks.
Okay.
You know, and it was like, you know, and my tech at the time, who's, you know, my buddy Mike Orr, who's great, you know, with his, he put, you know, with post phase inverter master volumes in them. So we tried to bring the volumes down as low as possible, but it was still like teeth shattering loud. So and that was just 2 heads, 2 cabinets. I can't imagine if you had whatever he's got, like how many of those cabs on stage.
I know,
he's probably
like 12, 14.
I bet he's probably running 2 or 3 at the most.
Yeah. I saw this cabs pretty close up. I saw them with Jason Sadites, my buddy here, and Carlo Santin. We went and saw them in Kitchener, Ontario. So just kind of halfway between where you played in London and Toronto. So halfway in between there. Sure. We saw them up there, and he had, I think, 12 cabinets, at least 12 cabinets, and you could see which ones were mic'd. You know, kind of, I think it was probably 1 or 2 off to the bottom right-hand corner, and that was about it. The rest were for show, but still
but
pretty
it
cool.
Looks cool, man.
It does look cool.
You know, so we, you know, Billie and I actually went to the first Generation X tour.
Okay.
And we had an off night on tour, and we went, and man, it was cool. It was cool, and you know, and I'm a Steve Vai nut. You know, I love all those guys. I mean, you know what I mean? But, you know, I'm a Steve Vai nut too. And that particular night, Yngwie played phenomenal. Like I think he blew I mean, those guys were like, holy smokes, you're killing it tonight. You know what I mean? He was so good.
Yeah. Adam Reaver was saying in the chat, he's saying the Yngwie stuff is real. So apparently they're all real cabs. So
I know that they're real cabs. I mean, if he has a mod, God bless him.
Yeah. Or it could just be, they could be fake, and maybe the weight that you're thinking is real. It could just be the Rolexes that are inside, maybe.
Yeah, it's where he hides his Rolex.
It could be, you never know. No, just totally kidding, of course. Yeah. Sean Pierce Johnson says, you can make anything sound awesome with the right mic technique and a little work. For sure, I agree with that. Dustin Webster says, hey, Jeff, did you make some of the guitars you've been rocking lately, Warmoth or anything of the nature?
I have in the past. I did go through a phase where I wasn't putting them together, but my guy Jeff Benj in Chicago, we'd buy parts, and because I wanted to kind of do the Eddie thing and start exploring that space tonally for a while. So I did, and tried all different types of pickups and different things, and learned. I mean, it's a really great experience too, because I think you get you build a different relationship with it. And so I would buy the bodies painted, but we would always get the necks untreated, and then kind of shape them, and then use like tongue oil or something. You know, and that's all I did. And yeah, they're actually great sounding guitars. But it's the reason I stopped using them is everyone ended up being like kind of so different.
Yeah, you need a kind of consistency.
Yeah, if I could play, I would think about that. Like in an ideal world, if I was in a band where I could play just one guitar all night, I'd really think about just doing something like that. But having to switch every night and stuff.
Yeah.
For every couple songs,
It's too much of a jump.
Yeah.
It's like that that Yamaha Pacifica. The audience can just see the body behind me a tiny bit, but I showed you that guitar, how I kind of refell in love with that one. It's an old school 1991 921, and it was the guitar that was to supersede the Gem before Rich Lasner. He left Ibanez to go work for Yamaha, and it's got a Warmoth neck on it. And I know what you're saying there about differences in guitars, because like I play my Wolfgangs all day, which I love to death, where I can actually strangle the neck like a broomstick, and then I play this Pacifica, which I love to death too, but it's really wide, really thin, like a wafer, and it's such a big jump.
Yeah.
But when you play, you're just like,
so on that, so they made it. So did he made it like one of similar to like more of like an Ibanez neck then?
Yes. Like I think it was supposed to be. Well, I did read that it was supposed to be the superseder of what's what I'm looking for, the successor of the Gem. And then he left, and he took the kind of that cutaway, slightly different cutaway, but that I don't even know what the full term of it is, but an easy access neck, and you can reach the 22nd fret without. It's almost like picture when you're playing SG, how you can hit that 22nd fret and you're still 3 inches away from the body of the guitar.
I know, it's nice, actually. Yeah,
that's what it's like on the Pacifica, and jumbo frets on that as well too. So when I got that baby back out, gave it some TLC, that's a hard guitar to put down.
Yeah, I've seen you play, and it sounds great too. Yeah, so that's an interesting era. Then I didn't know that. So did he kind of do the whole? So did even like so that basically that Pacifica design was based off of his initial concepts then?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah,
oh, that's cool. That's cool.
The only thing I don't like about it, and I wanted to upgrade this with some stuff from Adam, and it's Adam would get a kick out of this. I don't think he's even seen the bridge. It's a very unorthodox bridge. It's a licensed Floyd. It's called the RM Pro 2 or something like that, and the whole assembly is pretty much the bridge, the block, and everything. And it's very, very, very weird. Floyd will drop on there, but the way they've got it routed out, you'd have to like put your trem claw screws we'd have to put much longer trem claw screws in there, or else you're going to have springs stretching a mile. It's really weird. I'll try to describe it, off the air sometime. But that's the only thing I don't like about it. It stays in tune phenomenal, and the only other little quirk about it, instead of being a 3mm locking nut, it's like whatever the next size is. I'm going to just guess like a 5 or something. It's a very irregular. Actually, here's 2 wrenches. Well, you can't see, but I'll show the audience.
Oh, so the size of the actual is wow. Okay.
So there's a 3mm, and whatever this other one is. The other one is about the size that you'd use on a typical truss rod, and I wish I knew the number. I don't, but it's that size. So if you've got a truss rod wrench, that's what works for the Yamaha RM Pro 2. But the guitar just played. It's an alder body. Or no, do I alder or swamp ash? I keep getting this wrong. I think it's swamp ash. I'm going to be corrected on this for sure, but it's a really nice piece of wood. But speaking of tone, there's a question over here in the chat. David Morgan saying, and this is a question I had written down too, because some people know you for Smashing Pumpkins and they don't know your back catalog. And other people are obsessed with your back catalog. And maybe this is an opportunity for you to tell some of the new fans of yours. He's saying your tone with Violet Burning was inspirational. Can you tell us a little bit about that group? And you've got quite a bit of a catalog with them, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yes, that was kind of the first like good band I was ever in when I joined that band when I was 18, and we're a band from Southern California, and still Michael Pritzel, the lead singer, I'm still like really close with him. He's just a good dear friend of mine. And the album he's probably talking about is we did one kind of album. I think it came out in 96. That was, and that was very much like 90s alternative rock,
Okay.
Very much in the vein of Pumpkins and Jane's Addiction and that kind of stuff, but maybe a little more, Neil Young too, or something like that. But definitely we weren't like a grungy band like Soundgarden or anything like that. Or else, more like a lot of sonic stuff. We were really into that band from the UK, The Verve. So it had a lot of spacey sonics and stuff too. That was like a band where I really went from playing in the garage to playing real shows, playing clubs, doing showcases for labels, getting signed, putting out a record.
Really cutting your teeth in the trenches.
Yeah. yeah. So that and we did like 2 demos
Hmm.
because back then, people really didn't really self-release records. You actually did like a demo.
Sure.
There was that period, so we did 2 demos. So it's basically which would comprise an album, and then we did the full album. But then I've over the years, like on Michael's the last Violet Birdie record he did, I played on, I don't know, 3 or 4 tunes on that, and then he's got a new one in the works, and I think I played maybe like on 8 songs on that. But it was a few years ago. I went over to his house. He lives in the Boston area, and we just spent like 3 or 4 days just recording guitars. So, yeah. So I think he's almost done with it. So yeah. So we're, like I said, we're still friends, and like I said, it's one of my closest, dearest friends.
That's cool. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. Here's another question from Blackie DH2. He said, how did Jeff meet Billie? That's a very good question.
How did I meet Billie? 2 things. My friend my friend not here in LA. I'm in Chicago. My friend in LA.
Yeah.
He knew somebody who worked at the Pumpkins management company, and so Billie and Jimmy were in LA finishing what would be the Zeitgeist record.
Okay.
And so they were starting to think about, okay, we're going to have to tour on this record, and we need a new guitar player in the band. And so my friend heard about it, and then luckily another friend of mine had gotten. She was working as kind of doing early. This is like early form of social media, so I think it was like she was doing basically their website.
Okay.
Because there was other. I don't. Maybe MySpace was around. I think.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But and so she saw my name, my bio come in or whatever, and she was like, "Oh, I know Jeff." And so I was the first person they called.
Nice.
So I was lucky in that my name got to go to the top of the list, and so that's how we met. And so actually, Tatiana is her name. It was like her birthday, kind of right when I kind of put my name in the hat. And she said, "Billie's coming to my birthday party. Why don't you come and I'll introduce you guys?" So I think we first met at her birthday party. Yeah.
That's cool. That's a very cool story.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where we played together a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But since they were in LA for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
like it wasn't like, oh, let's just have one audition and either you're in it. It was like, hey, let's play together. They were super cool. They were like, hey, after, like, come hang out at the studio, watch us record. Let's just hang out, eat lunch together, just get to know each other, to see how we vibe as people together. So
that's awesome.
It was really something that progressed over time.
Is Billie the type person who sometimes he'll say to you, like, would he come to you and say, well, Jeff, what would you do in a situation like this? If you guys are working on some arrangements, whatever, does he ask you for suggestions sometimes? Or
yeah, we work on everything. Like he's definitely, like, he's the ringleader.
Right, of course, yeah.
I mean, but because it's, but we all, all of us are like, hey, why don't we do this? Or let's try this. Or how about, if you and I do this thing on the guitar together, or, yeah, no, it's very collaborative once we're in the room playing.
That is awesome. Something you can share with them sometime next time you're seeing them. Like, I feel so bad. Like, I've known Smashing Pumpkins since I was, a teenager, late teen, whatever, and heard everything on the radio, and one of the bands was, and we covered one song, back in the day. I don't even remember which one it was, but, I heard the songs, I liked them, but I didn't really know about the band per se overall. And coming to see you guys, the only time I've ever seen you, I was like one of those things where it's like, what have I been doing my whole life? Why have I not embraced this band? And that's another thing that we're kind of losing out. We're losing live music. People just aren't going to see live music anymore. And take a chance on bands that you would have never gone to see. And I just never had the opportunity to see you guys. But go see bands. Go any local, whether it's
crazy. It's becoming like, I think the way that we play,
mm-hmm.
and which is similar to a lot of the bands that you and I respect and like, is, it's like it's almost becoming like a lost art.
It is.
that type of rock and roll.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and it will reach a point to where, a lot of, the whatever. I think even if like Led Zeppelin wanted to play again, even if they did get together, I think it would be tough just because of the age.
I
It's
know.
like sadly, I'm almost 45, and, you only have so many years that the hands are not, are
Yeah.
going to function at a high level.
That's where arthritis and things like that can set in, and even at a younger
Yeah,
age.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a reality that you have to, even as healthy as you want to be. I mean, that's just stuff like, doing something with that kind of repetitive motion as playing guitar is at some point not going to be able to do it. And
There's a lot
yeah,
of art that's dying. There's a lot of art, and music is one of them for sure, like we just said. But also photography, because I'm a photographer for my business as well too. And I know Adam Reaver, he's a great photographer. I've got some friends that are photographers, and what we're doing right now is we're letting that die. And I'm sure you might agree with me on this. We whether we take a million photos on our phone or we have our good camera gear, we bring them home, we dump them to our computers, we throw them on the drive. But how often do we print them out like in albums like our parents used to? You know what I mean? Remember those days as kids?
it's a different experience, right? To sit there and, look through it, on like a physical page. It's just a different
It
experience.
is.
And the digitization of culture is great for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, like when I'm traveling, it's nice to be able to have, like, on my whole digital, music catalog on my phone,
Yeah, you can right there.
which is cool. But when I'm at home, man, it's like so much better to listen to a record, a vinyl record, or a CD. I mean, it's what I started, actually, even what I did the other day, which blew my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, I think, kind of highlights the fact of how degraded the quality of music has gotten in terms of sonic quality.
Mm-hmm.
Is I started listening with headphones to my iPod,
Okay.
and I'm like, wow, this sounds so much better than streaming music off my phone.
Sure.
And so even that is like, and let alone if you listen to, a CD, or, or a record. And so, yeah, I'm very much a tactile person, as you can kind of see. I mean, you
Oh
can
yeah.
see this is just like, I have a zillion book, and that's just like, this is just stuff that is in my little
Yeah, I
music
like that.
room. I mean, I'm a big book collector, and yeah, I like printed matter. You know what I mean? So like that stuff is cool,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a gazillion vinyl records, and I have like all the records I bought. Like it's funny. Like if you saw, like I have like my Quiet Riot Metal Health record from
Yeah.
1983 is still almost in pristine condition, because
Nice.
and I still have it. It's traveled with me every place I've ever lived in my life.
That's got history. That's got real history to it. It brings the memories from house to house, city to city, state to state.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, even like my Rat Out of the Cellar record, I
Yep.
think it still has the original. Because I used to, I would open the plastic, slit open the plastic and leave it on,
Okay.
and so it still has like the original plastic with, I think the price was $5.98 from when brand new.
Oh, that's wicked. The first time we got back into vinyl here, I got back into vinyl to introduce Junior to it because he was born into an era where CDs were going out. You know what I mean? And so that's how bad the technology is today. Well, I mean it's good and bad. You know what I mean by that.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
first record we had we got a nice turntable, fairly decent stereo system with a nice subwoofer and everything. The only thing that's really lacking is our preamp for the turntable. So I want to get a good preamp, but it does the
yeah,
job.
yeah.
And the first record we played together and we listened to was a 1984. And
Oh,
I remember the experience, and I'm not ashamed to say this. When I started playing it, I had kind of tears in my eyes because I was instantly transported back to when I was a teenager, and I remember the memories reading those liner notes. And it took me the whole time, even though there's only 400 words, probably including lyrics and everything on a liner note. It took you the entire record to get through them because you were just reading word for word, produced by, written by, published by, thanks to these people, and it was such an experience. I'll never forget that. You instantly transported back to a teenager.
no, it's so cool. It's so cool. I mean, and I've gotten, especially Van Halen, I've gotten all those albums. Um, I've gotten the reissues of the first couple, even though I have original pressings
Mm-hmm.
of of some of those as well. But I mean, all that's it's just so cool.
It
You know
is.
what I mean? It sounds so great, and I like to listen to things like that. I think it's an enlightening experience to listen to music to listen to the format that was the primary format when the record came out. So Van Halen, it was the LP.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? So that's so I think that's always like from just a historical perspective, that's like a good place to start. But but now I'm buying even new. Like I went to, I was so happy. I went to my local record store just down the street the other day, and they had Jason Becker's new album.
Oh, I want to ask you about Jason. So we're going to ask you about that in a second. That's cool.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
there.
and so I bought, and I already had it on. I bought the CD. I got the CD I had pre-ordered the CD, so that actually I already had it, but they had the vinyl, and I just bought it too, just because I wanted to,
For sure.
because the vinyl, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But then also just to support Jason and what he's done, and
Wonderful human
the
being.
amazing album he made. What a great record, right?
Well, here's a really unique thing that some people don't know this. Last year at this time, so you're my final guest of 2018, which I'm very honored. I'm blessed to have you here, and I've become friends with you now. But I'm blessed to have you here. But this time last year, the last guest of the year was Jason.
How cool!
He was here, and it was. I mean, Jason's cracking jokes like that's what she said, and like literally, actually, I've had him on twice at New Year's, the year before that as well too, and I'm literally crying. He's got me crying. I'm switching cameras so people can't see me cry on the air because I'm crying laughing. But we had Jason on the show, and you had the opportunity back around the summer as well too, to kind of live out a kind of a childhood dream as well too, to kind of meet Jason. What was that experience like? I can imagine. I'd like to live it through you.
Well, because of you posted a picture and I was wearing that Cacophony shirt.
Right.
And so Jason's, one of his closest friends and an awesome guy, Dave Lopez.
Yes.
Saw it. And so he reached out to you and said, hey, if Jeff ever wants to meet Jason, I'll arrange it. And if it was through anybody else, because I felt like going like, there's no way, like this is not going to happen. Like this is too good to be true. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? It seems sketchy, seems weird, but I'm like, but this is like through it. So I'm like, I mean, it seems like legit. And, so emailed a couple emails back and forth with Dave, and we were going to be out on, the Bay Area, the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area in a couple weeks. And so we worked it out, and I had since I had seen the documentary, I knew where Jason's house was.
Mm-hmm.
But as me and my friend, and I took, and I was lucky that one of my good friends that lives in Oakland, this guy Jeff Halderson, who's again one of those people like Adam, like Jeff Benj here in Chicago. Just he's has an archival knowledge of Bay Area music, of all music, but it's particularly stuff from that scene. So he was very familiar with Jason and Jason's story. And we drove up, he picked me up in my hotel. We drove out there. And until I got to his house, like when we pulled up, I was like, are we being like conned? Is this going to really happen? You know what I mean?
Where's Ashton Kutcher or the Punky or something?
Yeah. Is this like, but then, and then I started getting like a little bit like nervous, like what's it going to be like walking in when he's there? And but I'm not sugarcoating this at all. From the second I walked through the front door, and there's no buffer zone. It's a small house, and it's not like you walk in and then you're like, oh, hey, you're going to meet his parents and they're going to take you to Jason's room. Like you walk in the door and he's right there. He's right there. And from the first second, it didn't feel strange at all. Like it felt warm, kind, loving, compassionate, funny, and I spent like the whole afternoon there.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
he let me play every single one of his guitars.
That's
the
that's
Blue
cool.
Carbon, the Hurricane guitar,
The Mojo.
The one guitar that he was having made, I think it was a PV prototype maybe with the numbers.
Yep.
That was kind of built when he was doing the David Lee Roth stuff. And he was just like, he's like, play it. you know. And you know what's so cool about him is he doesn't. He's hyper aware of every single thing that's going on.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
You know, and he can, like, when he watches you play whatever, he can tell you, like, if you're playing, he'll, you know, if you're trying to play something, he'll be like, yeah, F sharp, you know, one more fret. Like, he knows, like, the shapes and patterns, he can still see them all over the neck. It's really cool. We hung out. His parents are really wonderful.
They are.
They're amazing people. And, you know, Dave was cool and as well. And they played me. I got to hear like 5 or 6 songs off the new album as well. And yeah, it was, you know, I think about him a lot, you know, and I try not to think about him, you know, you know, and he's so inspirational that it's like an understatement to say that he's inspirational.
I know what you mean.
Because, you know, life is difficult for all of us, and let's just break it down to being a musician, being a decent guitar player. It's hard. I mean, it's like, it's hard to play guitar well, you know. But then when you think about him, you're like, wow, he's wrote and composed this whole new album, and he can only move his eyes. I mean, like, he's worked through whatever limitations he's had to confront at such a high level that it makes me go like, okay, I shouldn't, you know, it just makes me humble in that way and go, don't complain about your, you know, we all have limitations.
That's right.
And we just deal with them. But so yes, he is, like I said, beyond inspirational in that way. And I think about him a lot, you know, I do. I think about him a lot, and I have his records around, and so I see them all the time, and it reminds me, makes me think of that. But when I talk about him, if I post about him or anything, I always try to highlight the fact that beyond the inspirational part, Jason is an amazing musician.
Yeah, certainly.
Still.
Yes, I know.
He is, his compositional skills are just as good, if not better, than they've ever been. You know, I mean, when you listen to the melodies and chord structures he composes on this record, you know, I mean, because there's a lot of music that's like kind of more classically based music, and I really love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool stuff. And when you listen to like the melodies and stuff he's writing, and the counterpoints and the harmonies that are going on, I mean, you're talking like this guy's just a gifted music writer.
Yes.
You know, and I just hope that people would see that in him as well, and not just like the story of like, wow, okay, he's alive. Yeah, I mean, that is miraculous that he's even, you know, that he's still alive. But the fact that he's just a great composer, you know, and I get the sense sometimes that, you know, I don't know, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he wants to just be like, hey, I'm a musician.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to be a musician to be inspired by that gentleman. You just have to have a pulse, and you are inspired. I mean, this is what he's done. And it's really funny, on a side note, where we can end in a moment on a really happy, funny note. I call this a zone thing. Sometimes you mention someone's name, and then all of a sudden they show up. I remember working in a music store, we talk about a customer or whatever, and all of a sudden they'd show up. It's like, I haven't seen this customer in 10 years, and they say their name, they show up. We talk about Dave Lopez, and Mr. Lopez himself is here in the chat.
Dave.
And he says, when are you coming to see Jason, Eric? Okay, I had the invitation. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will try to do that as soon as possible. And he's also giving me nice props on my mustache. Thank you. I'll take the grooming tips from you. I appreciate that. And he's also saying, you guys got me all choked up. Well, you know what? Dave is a great friend to Jason. You know, I mean, I think they're inseparable. Really, they're brothers. They're brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
A good man, Dave.
And you know what I love about it? Like, just becoming, you know, I would be honored if they considered me a friend. You know what I mean? But even friendly with them is that it really reminds me of that time in the, you know, early to mid 80s when we all started kind of really playing guitar, and kind of just that type of excitement level. And I remember Dave talking about hearing about, yeah, there's this dude down the street who can play like this, and you're like, you almost don't want to believe it because it makes you feel like insecure about your own playing, when you were a kid, and then you see someone with that much talent, in front of you.
I know.
You would hear like it's he's like local legends. Now it's like 12-year-old kids are all over Instagram playing. Yep. It's like it's not like you don't need to discover them. You need to like hide from them.
I know.
I'm just joking. But,
I know.
No, but it really makes me realize like when you would hear about, dude, there's this dude down the street and he can play. You're like, he can play as fast as Yngwie. You're like, no, you're lying. Yep. He can't.
It's crazy. You want to hear a funny story? I haven't even shared this with Dave, and Dave hasn't told Jason. So I'm going to share the funny story with all of you right now. So last time those guys were on the show, Jason and Dave are playing us little snippet, some rarities of David Lee Roth, and some little tiny hints of what was coming from the album and stuff like that. And they don't know this. I got a copyright strike from their label. And I'm like, but it was Jason playing it. It's so funny. Literally got a copyright strike on my channel, and it was the artist himself playing it. I like that. It's a very funny story. I just think it's so ironic, isn't it?
Is it just like an algorithm that's like identifies? Yeah, okay, yeah. So they don't even, I was gonna say, it's not like somebody.
There are some manual ones. There are some that are physically manual. They'll say, they'll get actually they'll come out and listen to some stuff. Or if, let's say I was to put Jason Becker new album on my title, they're gonna, maybe I'm just talking about the record, maybe not playing any music, but they're automatically gonna assume that I got some in there. And I've heard some stories, horror stories of people getting, and not with Jason's music, any people's music, that they'll just, these greedy people come out there and they'll grab it, right? But a lot of it is algorithms, like you say. So when an artist releases an album, it gets indexed, it gets sent to YouTube, and then as soon as there's an auto match, and the digital publishers will have software on there, and I've seen both ends of the software. The digital publishers will see, oh, Eric has played a song, and then do I want to claim that one, or do I want to let it slide? And they have the option to let it go or whatever, right? But in a lot of cases they'll claim it. But I thought it was very cute. It's a funny story, and I could care less that I got a copyright strike on it. It doesn't hurt my channel or anything like that. But it'd be like if Eddie Van Halen come on and played, and like he plays Eruption, and you get in trouble for it. But it was Eddie. You know what I mean?
He played it himself. Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what does it? I mean, not that people want to, but what does it mean when you get a copyright strike? Like if you get so many, then it could be a problem.
Yeah, if you got a whole bunch of them, and you can dispute them and things like that. And if you lose after you dispute, then you can get like a flag on your channel. After you get 3, you could technically lose your channel. So you got to be careful. And that's why more and more people now are using royalty-free music when they're doing their things. Usually when I'm playing, I only play my own music, and it drives some people crazy. But at least you don't get in trouble for it, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So funny stories. One of your other biggest fans is in the chat right now. Bane Rocks, my son Eric, who met you. He's jumping in to say hi.
Tell him I said hello. Hello.
For sure.
Hello, Junior. Yeah.
All right. And David says labels are annoying. But yeah, it was just a funny story to share for sure. Last question. I think Dustin Webster says, did you get a chance to play James' original Les Paul Custom? Does it have any special mojo? Or maybe you might, or do you prefer any 58 or 59 Les Pauls? I've seen Smashing Pumpkins 17 times. Bunch of questions. He's asking.
Have I played it? I don't think I may have picked it up for a second, but nothing more than a few chords. So I can't really. It sounds great. He has changed the pickups in it for this, but he has the originals. But he kind of carries that guitar around. Like I think that's one of that I think he doesn't sleep with it, but
right.
When he definitely takes it home with him, like. He doesn't leave it like in the warehouse.
Right. Yeah, it's a travel back and forth.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely it's got a lot of sentimental value to him.
Good.
For sure. Yeah. What was it? And then there was one other question about
let's see, and did it have any special mojo, and do you prefer 58 or 59 Les Pauls?
Oh, I have 2 of the what do they call it? R6?
Okay.
Or whatever. I prefer the 60s neck, which is slimmer than the 59. I do. So I like the slightly, but I do love those. I've never played an original 59, so I can't comment on what it's like. But of the reissue ones, I did have a 50s reissue gold top, and oh my god, it sounded amazing. but I sold it because, and I used it on, it was like my main guitar on, I used it on the Monuments for an Elegy record. Um, it sounds phenomenal, but the neck was so big.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't deal with it. So I actually sold it to my good friend Scott Marceau, my Yamaha artist rep. So he
Okay.
owns it.
Oh, very
So it's
cool.
still in the family. It's still in the family. I mean, I could probably, if I really wanted it back, I could get it back.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Offer a price, get it back. That's cool.
but yeah, those 60 the standard, it's like that looks like the Jimmy Page guitar, but it's got like the slimmer neck, and I have actually the whole lot of humbuckers in it, so I really has like that Zeppelin
Oh,
kind of
that's
sound in
cool.
it. They're great. I mean, it's definitely a thing. I love them. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good answer. As we wrap up here, I just want to ask you, and some of these things you may not be able to address, but we got the tour starting in May after the new year, and you're going to be going overseas. Is there anything that you can share with us that might get Smashing Pumpkins fans excited, or just hang on and see what's coming down the website?
It'll be a different show. It
Okay.
will not be it's not going to be a continuation of the Shiny No So Bright state. So it'll be a different staging and stuff. So
Okay.
that I can tell you.
Okay.
What the staging will be, it's not that I gonna, or what the set's gonna be is, we haven't talked about it yet.
Gotcha.
So
That makes total sense.
we haven't. So there's really, but we're super excited to go back. I mean, if we could play tomorrow, I think we would.
Oh yeah, I bet.
The one thing, that I can honestly share with people, and for the people that care, um, is that we get along great. Like, we have so much fun together.
That's awesome to hear.
And like and that's something that you can't really manufacture.
No.
And I think a lot of it just has to do with, man, I think as you get a little bit older and you realize like kind of how precious
Time is.
time, and just how lucky it is to actually be a musician,
A working musician.
and the fact that that you can put gas in your car because you play the guitar or something like that, let alone other things. I mean, like, that's cool stuff. And so just the fact that, hey, this band, people want to see it, people love those tunes, people love those songs, like, man, it's cool stuff to be able to do. So I think we all appreciate that and value that, and so that makes going and playing the shows. But I mean, we actually really care about playing good. You know what I
Like
mean?
you said earlier too, you said it really, really well, where you said, a lot of bands, this is probably true as well too, but it was, especially with Smashing Pumpkins, you guys check your egos at the door, and that probably goes a long way.
It's hard, and it's hard sometimes. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you want it to be about you. We're humans in general. We're ego driven, and you're like, hey, like, I
Watch
don't
me
want to
play.
play rhythm guitar here, but if that's what makes the song sound great, then that's what we'll do. And yeah, I think if you really, I think, not that I'm here to give advice to anybody, but like something that for me personally is, I found, something that for me personally has been valuable, is that I found that if I really focus on being like just a good musician, I find like certain, like, the other things that are not so great about being in a band become less intense.
Okay.
That it's really, if your focus every day is like, hey, I just really want to become a better guitar player, I want to become a better musician, and you're using every moment to really kind of focus on that, it seems to like kind of center my world in a way that makes being in a band a lot easier.
Absolutely fantastic advice. I was going to ask earlier for a piece of advice on, kind of working with a three-piece or three guitar player band, and you answered that. This is a much more valuable piece of advice. And I think that's fantastic, where a lot of people can really take that to the bank as far as improvement on themselves, and then working with, and it could be with their family, it could be with their band family,
It's
whatever.
true. Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? Because, you really have to have compassion for your band members if you want it to work long term. You know, if it's a band, you know, I mean, if you're a hired musician, you know, if you're playing for like a pop star or something, you know, that's something different. You know,
Totally.
that's a different type of really, but like this is, you know, kind of different in that, you know, we're a quote unquote a band, and you know, you're traveling together and all that kind of stuff, and you know, like, you know, it's like really, you know, having it's like, I don't know, it's hard for me to articulate like what I'm trying to say. I guess what I'm trying to say is you really have to have a mentality of where you really have everybody else's best interest in mind as well.
Exactly. And as Quentin James,
yeah.
my buddy Quentin James in the chat says it's usually the business end that makes playing a drag. And that's true. Sometimes you got to start focusing about the business.
Oh my God. It ruins my day sometimes.
I know.
You know, it really does. Like, you know, you get the email from management or whatever, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, are you, you know,
sometimes can kill the creative spirit sometimes.
It's hard. It's hard. Even when I'm in a situation as lucky as being in the Smashing Pumpkins, you know, I mean, it's like that stuff is hard. You know, it's not, you know, not every day is easy, and you know, it's you know, and it's like the playing is almost kind of the easy part. It's the other stuff sometimes it really can become a drag.
I hear you.
And it's hard, but that's, I mean, that's what I say. Like, if your goal is to be a musician, and then making music based decisions, I think that helps. It's not always realistic because you know, it sounds easy to say, you know, but sometimes you got to pay the bills.
Yep.
And you know what I mean, and that means like, all right, let's play, you know, Uptown Funk one more time. Yeah.
Free bird. I mean? That's right. That's right. It happens.
Yeah, you know, like my friend, you know, my neighbor is a great guitar player, and he plays in a cover band here in Chicago, and you know, he does his own music too, but he's like, man, he's like, the first time, and the reason he's like, the first time I had to play that song Uptown Funk, I like, it really like sent my head spinning.
I can remember years ago, my bass player in our band we were a cover band / original too. And a band who I respected after the singer passed away was Tragically Hip here in Canada. They're kind of
massive there.
And I didn't really like them. My bass player hated them. So we'd have our set list, and if all of our songs were printed in a size 15 font, we'll say, he would print the Tragically Hip in a size 2 font. So it just looked like a black stain on the set list. And you'd skip over the set, right? But people liked it. You get people dancing and drinking, and the bar owner loves that. You know, it's this vicious circle that you have to go through. You're not there to play the music you like, you know, when you're, you know, the bar guys. You're there to please the bar owner and please the crowd.
Yeah, and I think, though, see, that's you know, not that I idealize like that type of situation, but, you know, I think, as a musician, as a guitar player, like cutting your teeth doing stuff like that, like having to play in those types of situations, and just and having to play such a wide variety of songs and make them sound good, I think that's actually really beneficial.
Great experience. It is for sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, it's one thing to play something in your bedroom. It's another thing to play, you know, Wheel in the Sky solo by Journey, like on stage.
I know. And that's another thing too. I was telling Junior the other day, he's playing a guitar in the bedroom, and he wants to sit down on the bed to play. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, no problem. But I also want you to stand up and play too. That's where a lot of these kids today were, you know, like the younger generation, they're home with the greatest gear in the world now, with modeling and amps and all that kind of stuff, pedals, computer software, and they can sit on the edge of the bed and they can shred like nothing. Then they get up, their friends come out and say, come, let's go to an open jam night, open mic night. And they get on stage and they stand up. I can't play what I used to play. You know?
Right. I know. It's like,
got to work on a little bit of both. You can be spoiled in the bed. I play much better sitting down too. And I saw a funny thing about Phil X. This was kind of going off on a tangent, but Phil X was doing a thing over at GitCon. It might have been with Steve from Boston or one of those guys. And and so Phil's sitting down, he's playing something, and he goes, "Oh my God, I'm messing this up." And he's like, "I can't play sitting down." It's the complete opposite. He's never sits down to play. He's always standing up.
It's smart. I mean, because I mean, especially for more intricate things, it's your hand, the angle of your wrist to
Yes.
the. I mean, yeah, I know.
It's very, very, very
But,
interesting.
but, but I feel like I can't do it. I always practice sitting down.
Yeah, I know. We're getting older too, right? We take that luxury and it feels better to sit down, doesn't it?
I just got to sit down.
I know. I hear you. I'll wrap up with a couple comments here. Adam EVH says, thank you, Eric Nocturnal Butterfly. And Jeff, hope everyone has a great 2019. All the best to all. Quentin says, what's Adam says? Blackie DH says, you're a good dude, Jeff. So glad to hear it. Brad Miller, thanks, Eric, Sandra, and Jeff for hanging out. Have a great new year. JJ's House of Jams, what a great night. David Morgan, let me see here. I'm Second Wind says, I refuse to stand up and play. No problem, man. It's all good. And he says he's in touch with his coach, and Quentin James says Phil X is a hoot. So listen, as we wrap up here, we ran a little bit longer tonight, but that's nice. This is a 2018 wrap up special. Jeff, thank you so much for your very valuable
thank you
time.
for having me. It's always a pleasure. I mean, it's like I said, it's you know, I don't mind talking. I could talk about this stuff all day long. So.
I know. It's you don't realize how quickly the time goes by. And I've said this to guests on the show before too. Some people that are new, I'll say, yes, we're going to do a 90-minute program. And sometimes I'm talking to them. A lot of times I'm talking to their management. And they're like, oh, no. So-and-so, we only do 15 minutes here, whatever. I'm like, just trust me. And then so the artist will come on the show. And after the third question, and then after the seventh, eighth question, it's time to go. And they're like, we're done? And it's like, I told you, it flies. It's just two guys talking about, and sometimes the women are on the show as well too. Time just flies when you're having fun with talking gear.
No. I mean, this is like, it's, I really appreciate because it's, I really feel like this is building like different types of communities in guitar communities that are kind of different because, I mean, I think we talk about gear here a little bit. Even though it's like obviously your page is called EVHGTV, but it's different than like a gear review.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so much of content now is gear centric, where it's I like watching your show because I like to hear some of my favorite players talk about like more of like the psychology of playing.
And some of what's going on in their life sometimes, just home stuff.
That's what's sadly been, in kind of guitar journalism and like the major publications has kind of missed that part. They've gone, because probably the numbers that are driven, they've gone to more of like a gear centric type of content. And it's, which is, it's important and, and believe me, I'm just as obsessed with anybody with it too, but the players are, are more important. I want to find out what, why. I want to find out not like what Paul Gilbert is using. I want to figure out like why he chose that sound.
Exactly.
Like, that thinking like, what's the thought process? And I think like that's, maybe even more important than the what.
I agree with that 100%. And sometimes the things that you hear these people say, you don't get to hear them in the typical magazine interviews and things like that. And for me, what I love about this, the first and foremost, is being to get to talk to cool musicians that you've idolized your whole life. And you're an example tonight. Great pleasure speaking with you again. But when I retired from the music scene in 2012, I did my share of touring and things like that. It was starting to kill me. And now when I'm done this show, like my family's a big part of the show, as you know. They're all involved in this. We all share the channel. We all put everything into the channel. But the minute I say goodnight to you, like when I'll say goodnight to the audience, I always say goodnight to my guest off the air. And then I hit stop and I open the door and there I am with my family. I don't have to travel. I don't have to be coming home at 3:00 in the morning. And I'm still involved in the music scene, and it's surrounded by love in the music scene with family and friends. And it's a fun thing to do.
No, and totally. And just, even me leaving, like after talking, it makes me go like, it's the same thing. When I get off, I'm like, wow, I feel inspired to go and practice and just delve more into the world of guitar and all that kind of stuff. So,
awesome.
That's what community, why it's important, and, nowadays things are so fractured and whatnot. It's not always easy to find these people just down the street or at the cup. So, the fact that we can get together online like this and reach out, I think is a really wonderful thing.
Well, thank you once again. It's been a real pleasure. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air in a moment. I will text. And I'll text you. I'll turn my camera back on after we jump off too. I'll text you when we get to California. We'll hook up for sure, and I'll come and see you at some of your signings there. But everyone in the chat, I want to thank you all so very, very much. Every single one of you. We hit some nice milestones this year. Back in November, we hit 10,000 subscribers. That's all thanks to people like yourselves that really drive this channel. I'd like to take credit for it, but I don't take credit for anything that is not of my nature. I just show up and talk. You people show up and listen and support and help tweak things for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to our moderators here on the channel that help keep the thing nice and clean. Thank you to my better half.
yeah, thank you.
We need that for sure. Nocturnal Butterfly, or Sandra Lee here, is my better half. Thank you for everything she's done here to make the show happen this year. And I am doing one last show, which isn't EVH related, so it was not technically the last show of the year. This is the last EVH show of the year. Sunday at a special time, 5 p.m. Eastern instead of 3 p.m. Eastern. I've got John Brown from Monuments on the Helix Hour. That will be the last Helix Hour broadcast of the year. I just want to thank everyone for all the support. I hope you have a fantastic and most importantly, a safe new year. A lot of people like to go out and celebrate. That's awesome, but be safe. It's one of the most dangerous times of the year. Be safe. Drinking and driving and all those kinds of things that are out there. Just be very, very careful. So have a good one, everybody. Pleasure to have you here. Jeff, I'll say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, we'll see you real soon. Happy New Year. Until next time, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
I am now on Patreon. If you enjoy my content and wish to support my channel and what I do, then please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/EVHGearTV. Your support assures the continued growth of this channel and a fun community in which to share our love for Van Halen, music gear, and much more.
My name is Eric and I'm playing Wolfgang guitar.
Video production services provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com.